Hey, today I'm going to share with you the top 3 ways to choose your pricing as a freelancer without feeling like a fraud. As an online business educator with over 15 years of leading women in the workforce, I'm living out my dreams in Hawaii as a work from home mom, empowering women to break out of the corporate shackles and live free lives on their own terms. So let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I am super excited to share these 3 ways for you to figure out how to set up your pricing as a freelancer, whether you haven't started or maybe you have and you're still not super comfortable. I've got you covered. So, number one, you need to first determine how many hours you have to work each week or each month. We all have 168 hours each week. So, the best way to do this is to do a time diary for a week and see how you're using that time now. You probably have more time than you realize. It's super simple. You can just keep a notepad next to you and put what you're doing and how long it's taking you each day for anything, whether it's business, work, personal, anything. Just keep a time diary. You'll be shocked to see how much time you're spending doing things that um, might not actually need to be done, or maybe you're wasting time in certain areas that aren't moving you forward to where you want to be in your life. And it's really, really helpful. So it can feel hard and tedious, but it's really not, I promise. If you're better on your phone, you can use the Notes app and track things that way. If you want to print out a blank calendar, you can find one online for free to print out and write in. If you use a paper planner, you can start filling out everything in there to see where you're using your time and how much time you're spending doing different tasks. And if you do work currently, whether you work, a job, like a regular job, or if you are already working from home, it really helps to track that time. So first thing to do, figure out how much time that you have to work each month. I like to just break it down by the week, like how many hours per week I can contribute to working, and then from there multiply that to figure out how much per month. So let me know in the comments, do you feel right now, do you feel like you utilize your time well? I know I struggle with this, and having my schedule mapped out for me really helps me to stay on track. Of course, I'm human and I'm a mom. I get off track more than I'd like to admit, but we usually have an idea if we think we are utilizing our time well. So let me know in the comments how you manage your time now, and how you feel about that, if you feel like you're utilizing it well. The next thing you're going to want to do is to determine how much money you need to make each month. So this is one of the first things you need to do when you are trying to decide how much to charge as a freelancer. So you need to know how many hours you have to contribute, and you need to know how much money you need to make. This can be really, really easy. Whether you need to just replace your current income. And a lot of people think, oh, as long as I replace my current income, I'll be good. But if you're currently working outside of the home, there can be a lot of expenses that you will no longer have, or that will decrease a lot by making the transition to working from home. So a few places to start. Think about, do you need to replace your current or previous income? And then go over your budget. If you don't have a budget, I know it sucks. It's freaking annoying to do, but it really is that step to figuring out where you're at financially and what you need to do to replace your income or make the amount of money you need to make. So go over your budget, and look at any expenses that are work related. So if you work outside of the home, you might have parking fees, gas, car maintenance, uniforms, eating lunch out, getting coffee out, daycare. Some people who work from home still like to have, some sort of childcare so they can have solid work time without interruptions. So some people do end up still using some sort of daycare, but usually it's a lot, less time. And a lot of times, I know a lot of moms who will hire someone to come into the home, which can be a lot more affordable than sending them to a daycare, plus the extra time and any supplies you have to, deal with. So it saves you a lot of time and energy to have someone come into your home, or they'll use a mother's helper, which generally is someone who will come into the home and help you with the kids and sometimes some household stuff. But since you're there, a lot of times you can find someone who, maybe is a teenager or in college, and that could be a lot more affordable because you're still there in the home if there's any, emergencies or anything. So I've seen a lot of moms work out some really great situations to cut down on their daycare expenses. And a lot just don't have daycare at all. They work when they can. That's the beauty of being a freelancer. As a virtual assistant, I never took a job where I had to be somewhere at a certain time because daycare wasn't an option for me. I, just wanted to be with my son and have him home. So I worked, when he was napping and at night, or sometimes I get up early in the morning, but more often it was late at night because I'm not a morning person. So you can really adjust your schedule to work for your lifestyle. So going over that budget really is helpful to help you figure out how much you actually need to make, because a lot of times we think we need to make more than we actually do. And once you cut out a lot of those extra work-related expenses, it doesn't feel quite as scary. So determine how much you need to make each month. And then the other thing is accounting for taxes. So most CPAs that I've talked to recommend saving about 25 to 30% of what you make for taxes. So this means that you need to save that from your income for paying taxes. So if you're an independent contractor, if you're charging $20 an hour to your clients, you need to take a percentage of that and put it aside to pay your own taxes, because they're not pulling out the taxes like your employer would do. So it's a little bit different being an independent contractor versus an employee. So as an employee, you're used to having all of these taxes, fees taken out of your paycheck before you get it. So here's an example. So say you make $20 an hour at your job. They take out the taxes, and maybe you're bringing home $15 an hour after taxes. So if you charge $20 an hour as an independent contractor, you're going to save that, $5 an hour for taxes, and you're still going to take home the $15 an hour that you were as an employee. You just have to set it aside and make sure that you put it aside and pay your taxes. So that's the only difference. Someone isn't managing that for you. And of course, as an independent contractor, you have the freedom to charge what you want, work with whomever you choose, and make changes at any time, which is just, a few of the things that I love about being an independent contractor. So how much money do you think you need to make to replace your income? You can share in the comments, or if you're comfortable, or just think about it and do the exercise I just shared, going through the budget, figuring out how much you need to make per hour, and then obviously accounting for taxes. So the third thing that you need to think about when you are choosing your pricing as a freelancer is doing some market research and figuring out how much others in your area are charging for the services. And when I say in your area, that's both skills-wise and your location. Pricing between different countries can vary drastically, and even here in the US, different states. And that can depend on what the minimum wage is in different states. And, I would say more of the pricing comes from skill level and confidence level, but there's definitely a location aspect to that. There's certain states where the minimum wage is a lot less than others. So, for example, there's some areas, I don't know if it's the whole state, I can't quite recall. I think it might be certain metropolitan areas, but like Seattle, for instance, and Washington, last I heard, their minimum wage in that area was $15 an hour. It might have gone up since then. This is probably a year or two ago. But other parts of the state, it was lower. And I know in Oregon, where I'm originally from, I don't know what the minimum wage is anymore. I think the last time I heard it was $10 or $12 an hour. But then there's some states that, depending on your job, you might make a lot less, especially if you are a tipped employee. So there are some states that a tipped employee, like a server, might make $2 an hour or $5 an hour because they're a tipped employee. But then in Oregon, a server makes $12 an hour plus tips. Here in Hawaii, the minimum wage is $7-something an hour. So for a mom in Hawaii who needs to be home with her kids, making $12 an hour as an independent contractor might still be a good option for them because they're making more than minimum wage. They're home. They don't have to pay for childcare. But someone in like Seattle or another, more metropolitan area that the minimum wage is $15 an hour, they wouldn't take a position making less than their minimum wage. So it can really vary. But most generally, most newer virtual assistants in the US usually start anywhere between $15 to $20 an hour, just depending on their skill level and, again, their confidence level. So looking at where you're at, both skills-wise and location, can help you determine how much you should charge for your services. And then making comparisons. Now, we usually say, don't compare. But it can, in this area, it can help that feeling of imposter syndrome. So to realize how hiring an independent contractor is really a bargain for many business owners. So you as an independent contractor, when you are offering services to a business owner, they are paying you a flat rate. So, whatever, $20 an hour. I'm just going to use that because it's an easy number, and that's the rate that most virtual assistants that I work with start at. So, $20 an hour, and they don't have to deal with any employee issues. So when someone hires you at $20 an hour, or any rate, but again, I'm using $20, they don't have to worry about, taking out taxes for you. They don't have to worry about giving you benefits. So, insurance and, anything else. They just pay you $20 an hour and you deal with the taxes. And again, that's easy. It's easy, right? It's not hard. But for business owners, it's really nice for them to hire independent contractors so they don't have to worry about dealing with employees. Again, that's some of that market research, right? Like to kind of see like that comparison helps you to feel more confident when you are stating your price, right? So if you have a discovery call with a potential client and you, if they ask you what your rate is and you say, I charge $20 an hour, whatever, I have a minimum of 10 hour per month packages, whatever it is that you do. If they are shocked and surprised by the hourly rate, which depending on their own money issues, their own experiences, some are shocked by that. Some are like, oh, that's cheap, So it just depends on who you're talking to. But it can help your confidence knowing that if they hired an employee, like an actual employee, they would have to pay the hourly rate plus any other employee expenses. So for a business owner, there's definitely a point in their business, where it makes sense to hire employees. But a lot of smaller businesses and online businesses prefer to hire independent contractors so they don't have to deal with all of the employee issues. I was thinking about, did your job ever give you one of those reports showing you like your value? Like they'll say, okay, we pay you $30,000 a year to do your job, but we're actually spending, $50,000 a year on you. Like when they add in all of the other fees they pay, like your insurance and any other, employee type fees. Have you ever received one of those reports? Let me know in the chat. I'm curious because, in corporate, they would give those out and it would make you feel so valuable. I know it did for me. And I think my husband felt that way too. Like, oh, you felt valuable. Like, wow, like I'm not just making, whatever it is, $30,000 a year. I'm actually making $50,000 a year, right? Like it makes you feel valuable. But it also makes you feel trapped because then you realize like, oh my gosh, I hate my job, I could never leave because they're spending all this money on me. They've invested so much in me. And also, man, if they're spending that much money on my insurance, I can't afford to pay that myself, right? Like we have these limiting beliefs just based off getting handed one of those pieces of paper. So, I'm sure there's ulterior motives behind them sharing those reports with us, right? So yeah, let me know if you've ever got one of those and how it made you feel, because I know it made me feel valuable and trapped. So these are my top three ways to determine your pricing as a freelancer. So you can feel confident with your income and don't feel like a fraud when you're stating your price to potential clients. Knowing your worth and value is really important. And if you aren't comfortable with that rate, it's going to show. So you need to look at your budget, look at your hours, look at your skills, look at these different pieces and determine, and again, and the market research to see what other people are charging to help you determine the right amount to start with. And the beauty of it all is you can always make changes. So if something isn't working, you change it. So click the link in the description and let's continue this conversation. I hope this is helpful. Let me know if there's anything that surprised you or that you need more information on, because I would love to talk about it further. All right. Thank you. Have a great day.